right, another day, another dollar, and another show. It's time for some pre-cals, guys. What's going on today?
Hey, let me take a sip of my new Sleep Tech Talk Sleep Podcast mug before we jump in today. We'll have to get some of those.
Fancy.
I know we'll have to get some of those available for sale on the
That's right.
on the website.
Wow,
So
I like it.
hey, wake up and smell
everybody
the
check us
coffee.
out. That's
Wake up
right.
and smell the coffee as a new meeting now, doesn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
For our sleep hygiene people, they're going to be like adding up all the caffeine milligrams that thing can hold.
Hey, we want all Sleep Techs drinking out of a Sleep Tech Talk mug,
There you
right?
go. Double the caffeine.
That's right.
Great
Well,
ROI.
Hey, so today we're going into the world of TikTok. We have with us today Kaisa.
Dancing? Are we going to be dancing?
No.
I can do the Bollywood. You know that, right?
Yeah. People don't want to see this.
I'm pretty sure you could. But we have Kaisa, who has a TikTok channel where she's got over 1 million likes of her videos. And if you look at her videos, she's seems like she's always got on some CPAP mask, and she's talking about her challenges and on personal struggles with sleep. And, it's about advocacy for patients. Just an amazing resource that's really free for patients who might want to be connected with someone who is real about their personal experience with CPAP. But I think that what we'll find today is how important CPAP is to her and her own personal health.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And
absolutely. I agree. One of the things that's fun is when you see patients take ownership of their journey.
Right.
And that's what I really look forward to hearing with this, because I can remember, story after story back when I was in, a sleep lab of that patient who went from being incredulous and angry about even having to be there to turn around and being the poster boy or girl for sleep. And so it's going to be fun to hear that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jerry, but that's somebody in particular came to mind who is a great friend that really embodied that. And so I'm looking forward to hearing that today.
With that being said, let's get to the recording then.
Lights out.
Welcome everyone once again to another episode of Sleep Tech Talk. Hold up. Folks, we've got some exciting news for you right now, right here on Sleep Tech Talk. We want to let you know that we are looking for 2023's Person of the Year. That's right, Sleep Tech Talk's 2023 Person of the Year. How are we going to do that? Well, listen up. Any guest that's been on the show so far, and any guest that's going to be on our show for this year, 2023, are all nominees or all candidates for this recognition. And how you can help is by listening and or viewing that specific episode. We're going to be counting the number of plays for each episode. We're going to be counting the number of listens for each episode and taking that into consideration. If you have anybody that you think should be a candidate, let us know. And we will see what we can do to get them on board as a nominee. At the same time, we need your help to make this happen, to select that Person of the Year. Along the way, we hope to introduce some other awards as well. But in the meanwhile, do everybody a favor, do us a favor, and listen in to your favorite guest. So by early next year, 2024, we'll be announcing the winners. Now back to the show. Podcasts. I'm talking about yours. It's with your hosts and friends, Robert Miller, Emerson, Kerr, and me, Dr. Gerald George Mannikarote. As always, we have a fabulous guest. But before that, just want to remind everybody, please give us the star ratings on your podcast platforms. Don't forget to write a comment. Talking about comments, make sure on the YouTube side, put in a comment. It helps the algorithm. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe. And most importantly, whether it's podcast or on YouTube, do not forget to share it with your friends, to let the word get out. And it's because of you sharing that we've been able to grow. With that being said, tell us a little bit about what's happening today. Robert, what's going on?
Hey, we're headed down the TikTok lane as it relates to sleep medicine, and we've got a great guest with us today. She's going to be able to tell us a little bit about how she's been impacted personally as it relates to sleep issues, and how she's turned that into a new platform. I guess a platform that's not necessarily new, but a new way to be able to reach people and talk about sleep. So Kaisa, if you would introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Kaisa, and I run a TikTok account called Mental Health Naps that focuses primarily on my life and journey and outlook, coping with severe obstructive sleep apnea. And I have over 35,000 followers with over 1 million likes. And to be honest, if you would have asked me this is what I'd be doing like 2 years ago, I would have been, there is absolutely zero way I would ever talk about my sleep apnea publicly on the internet, of all places. So it's been a crazy ride.
That's fantastic. And I hope you get a few more thousand after this podcast comes out, by the way, followers. If I had the time and the energy and effort, I swear I would probably spend time doing TikTok videos, but
That's
I can
because
only
he
do
says
TikTok videos that are just happen to be on my phone and that I can turn into a TikTok video. So I'm a terrible content creator.
no.
So
He says that because he's good at dancing, and that's why he says that. So
But like TikTok and dancing, just put your mask on and win-win, you know?
there you go. Well, tell us a little bit about your sleep apnea story and sort of how that happened. I know it's been a few years now that you've been involved or on CPAP therapy. So tell us a little bit about that, and as much as you want to share, and then how that you converted that into this social media presence.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with severe obstructive sleep apnea in 2017, so like 6 years ago. And it was a complete shock. Didn't see it coming. At that point in my life, I was in college and I actually had to withdraw because I was suffering from severe depression and anxiety to the point where I just couldn't physically function. I remember there was a day where I slept like 12 hours at night and then would nap during the day and was still tired. And in my mind, this was just me escaping the darkness that is depression, and the intense anxiety. And I moved home and I started going to a nurse practitioner of mental health. And I was doing therapy sessions like 3 times a week. And, I lost a lot of time in my life to dealing or trying to cope with this level of depression and anxiety. And I am actually very grateful that I was in a safe place and I was in a position where, I kind of could break down like that at the level I needed to. And it's interesting now because I remember trying all these different medications that are like, your regular antidepressants, anti-anxiety. My sleep was, of course, all over the place. And all the medications weren't working for me. Turns out I have a very sensitive system when it comes to dealing or taking these medications. And so there was a long period of time, like a few months, where I was just sick on top of that from the side effects of those medications. And it got to a point where I was sitting in a session with my nurse practitioner of mental health, and he's like, I don't know what else to do for you. The medication isn't working. Therapy sessions are not doing what they should be as far as helping you along. You've done every other like lab with your primary care doctor. Everything came back normal. You look normal. Like, what the only thing that I can think of as like a last ditch effort before we start trying something more drastic is to get a sleep study. And that completely blindsided me when like when he talked about me getting a sleep study. I didn't really know a whole lot about what it was. Like my dad, he had sleep apnea, so I was aware of sleep apnea, but like other sleep disorders, I was like, I have no idea. Like, of course, you hear of insomnia or whatever, but he's like, I'm not trying to see like if there's something specific, but we should have a look at your sleep quality because that can greatly affect your mental health.
So no one had ever
And
told you that you snored or you maybe woke yourself up, having an apnea event? No.
nope,
Wow.
nope. It was actually a joke in my family that I was so quiet when I was asleep, like couldn't hear me at all. Um, and of course, when you think of sleep apnea, you think, oh, you have to snore to have sleep apnea. Um, and to be honest, I scoffed at the idea. I thought it was stupid. I was like, I do not need to do that. Do you see how much I'm sleeping? That sleeping is not a problem. I need to be awake, you know? Oh, hindsight, what a thing. Um, and it took a few more months for my practitioner of mental health to convince me that, what do you have to lose just to have your sleep checked? And I remember the latest medication failing, and I was just so done with medications and feeling sick. Like, I'm talking like 6 months of this at this point. And I just looked at my nurse practitioner of mental health and I said, at this point, I have absolutely nothing to lose. So I went and followed up with my referral to a sleep doctor in a sleep clinic. And in the first consultation, he took one look at me and he's like, it's always a good thing to check your sleep quality if you're really, really struggling with your mental health and have severe mental illness. But I'm not expecting to find anything. And I was like, okay, great. Me too. Let's just get her done, call it a day, make the nurse practitioner of mental health happy, be done, move on in my misery, whatever. And so a few weeks later, I went in for my in clinic sleep study and they tested for everything. And the next morning, he walked in and he's like, I'm really surprised because you have uh, severe obstructive sleep apnea with like your AHI being in the 60s. And I just looked at him like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? And I didn't believe it. I went into like a whole state of shock, a whole state of, I think about is it the 5 stages of grief? Like, I think that was a whole thing here. Um, because I didn't know anybody my age in my situation that was dealing with sleep apnea. If anybody was dealing with sleep apnea, it was just my dad and his pals. Um, and my sleep doctor, he just said, like, well, it's really uncommon to find it in young women such as yourself who look moderately healthy. I know you're not doing great because of your mental health, but sometimes it happens. And I'm like, okay, score, great. What now? And the rest of the day was honestly a blur when he pulled me into this room and you had all these mannequin heads with all these different masks. And I was horrified because I was like, that's what I have to sleep with on my face. You can only imagine, like, oh my gosh, what are my roommates going to think? What are people I'm going to date? What are they going to think? Like, all of the worries of a young woman in her early 20s, at this point. And, I just, it just in one ear, out the other. I got a CPAP machine, and I started using it. And it was incredible, like how I don't want to say fast because it was pretty gradual as far as my improvement. But after about a month, like I had seen more improvement in my mental healing with my mental illness that I had seen in months with these different medications. And
So let
that's
me
just
ask you
how
a
it
quick
played out for
question.
me.
Now
Yeah.
that you've done that, I mean, that's an incredible story. One of the things that comes to mind is like right in the very beginning, where you were talking about the doctors saying that someone like you doesn't fit the profile. Now that you've been on this journey, how many more women have you met who kind of fall into that same category? They don't fit the profile, they get excused, because they got all this other stuff in their life. That's why they're tired. And you're helping them discover that maybe having that sleep disorder is actually the problem, not all the excuses they typically make for themselves. How often are you hearing that now that you're on the other side of this journey?
I would say I easily get, um, at this point, it's been a couple of years. I've gotten hundreds of messages from young women saying, I I had no idea, or maybe they were brave enough to go ahead, get the sleep study, be diagnosed with sleep apnea, and then they went through the exact same anger, embarrassment, shame, regret, all of these things because, in their mind as well as mine, there was a formula of why you had sleep apnea. And when you didn't fit that formula, then all of a sudden you're like, well, what where do I fit? I don't fit anywhere. And it's actually been one of the biggest drives for me to create mental health naps or to create this platform is because I tried to make content that I would have loved to see when I was first diagnosed. And to be honest, there are some times where I'm making the content and I am laughing so hard because, here's me accepting the fact that I have this sleep disorder, that I have to wear this mask. And it's actually quite a huge healing process for me at the same time. So it's been a really humbling experience to get these messages from these young women specifically who don't fit the box and say, "Oh my gosh, I thought it was just me. I'm so happy I found you." And in my mind, I'm just like, oh my gosh, there are other people like me who have this same issue because at the end of the day, everybody has the right to check for their sleep health, which has been a whole thing I've had to learn in this whole thing as well, that sleep health is a thing. Um,
Would you
and
say
to
there's
just
one big story that's left out for you though? I mean, as you've heard these hundreds of feedback, is there something in particular that really struck you? One really good story.
One in particular is I actually had a young girl, a teenager, reach out and she said, "I was looking into your account. I'd never thought to check my sleep, and I'm struggling with severe depression and anxiety, and the doctors can't find out what's going on. So I'm just letting you know that because of you, I'm pursuing getting a sleep study done." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, let me know how it goes. Not that I wish you have a sleep disorder or sleep apnea, but I hope you find answers." And I remember like a month later, she contacted me back and she's like, "I was just diagnosed with severe sleep apnea as well. Can we talk masks?" And I remember like for a couple hours, we just talked back and forth about different masks she'd want to try, different little things. Because at this point, I'd been a few years in and I tried some masks, obviously. But, when I think about when she got her mask and she got her machine, she sent me a picture of it and she's like, "Thank you so much for helping me feel brave enough to go through this process." I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to hold on to that forever." So, yeah.
Kaysa, if you could tell us a little bit about your content. I mean, obviously it was because of that she reached out to you. So what can viewers on TikTok expect to see from your channel? I guess that's what it's called on TikTok.
Yeah. So, um, that's a really good question. To be honest,
My
I
guess
hope
is it's not dances like Robert wants to do, but
no, I'm actually not a big dancer at all. So it's just like, what am I doing here? Anyway, but it's fine. The biggest thing that I hope people get from watching my content is that it's normal. It's okay. There are other people who have to wear a mask when they're asleep. There are other people who are struggling to adjust to the pressure. There are places to talk about different masks. Um, know for myself, I've learned tips from people who leave comments on on my videos how to better work the machine. Like best TikTok hack I ever learned was to hang up my hose so the water doesn't get in there. I never thought of that before. Um, and just to feel like, oh, this is not just me who's struggling with CPAP, because something else I've realized is that there's two people in this world. There's those that just use the CPAP once, so one pressure, and they're golden. This would be my father. And then the other group would be me, who struggles finding the right mask, who struggles being CPAP compliant. And what does that look like? And maybe you just have a night where the mask is like a no-go. And I think the most important thing is I want people, when they watch my content, to be able to say, oh, this is normal. I'm okay. And it's kind of okay to laugh at it at the same time, because I have to deal with it by laughing at it because I've cried way too much about having sleep apnea. Now it's time for giggles. So that's what I hope people
I
find.
know that you've got a large enough following now. Do you have companies that come to you with products that they want you to try, so that if you can advocate for it and accept it as part of your own therapy, then you're going to sell it to your to the people who are watching your video?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And you also have an online store. So talk a little bit about that too, because we want our listeners to be able to go to your store, and if there's something there they need, they can certainly, buy that through your channel.
Yeah, so I mean, I have an online store that's just like some merch as far as like CPAP awareness, sleep apnea awareness, all of these things. And then I try to provide links as to, where you can find different CPAP products, because sometimes that can be difficult to find it at a good price depending on insurance and all of those things. So, yeah, those are you just through my website, Mental Health Naps, you're able to find those things. So, yeah.
So your handle mental health naps. Tell us
Mhm.
why you came up with that name.
Yeah. So originally, Mental Health Naps was Vidi Vidi Vici, which is like a Latin thing of I came, I saw, I conquered. And it was a mental health blog. And it didn't have a whole lot of hits. It was more of a tool while I was going through the therapy and all of that. And then it became Mental Health Naps like a few years later when, I started being active on the internet about my story. And I used to take naps in the afternoons religiously before I had CPAP or knew I had sleep apnea. And I would call them my depression naps. Like it was a chance to restart my brain. And then when it turned out that the problem was my sleep, and I stopped taking those naps because, your body heals once you get on CPAP and all of these things. And, with me, my whole mental health story comes from my problem with sleep and the naps. So I was just sitting there one day and I was like, I need to change the name of this blog thing to be more, you know, to encompass what my life has actually become with sleep apnea. And I was like, mental health naps. Okay. We got to sleep good to have good mental health. Perfect. So that's how that came to be.
I love it. That's so cool. So, with that being said, the next question that we're curious about, and Robert was kind of alluding to that, is the development of content. We're also a form of content creators with the podcast, and even we don't do it as often as you do. But
Yeah.
we also struggle. I'm sure people out there struggle. How do you create new topics to talk about CPAP? Come on, I mean, you got the machine, you got the hose, you got a mask. What more are you going to be talking about?
Well, I can attest that she hits all the topics: mask leaks. I mean, lines on your face. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, she hits it all. So I've watched a few of your videos.
Oh, yeah. I hit it all and some. To be honest, when it comes to creating videos, that is something I've always enjoyed, to be honest. Not as a content creator, but like even when I was a kid, like I was the one running around with a video camera, like filming things. Um, but I don't know. I've been asked this question before myself, and to be honest, it's like I just hear a piece of music, or I see a trend, and my immediate question is, how can I make that about sleep apnea and CPAP? And sometimes I surprise myself. Sometimes I think I'm way out there in left field because I'm like, oh, will people get this? Sometimes I just have fun, just make myself laugh with my mask on. It's kind of like I said earlier, like people are like, oh, this looks like Bane, so what am I going to do? I'm going to find a Bane auto recording and then audio recording and then makes content. And then
I give
also,
you permission to breathe.
yeah, precisely. And then, it's, I try to just capture little moments of my life or little thoughts that I've had about having CPAP and sleep apnea, and I just have pages of just ideas that I have yet to make because there's just more. There's just always more. And at the same time, it's like, you know, it's not just sleep apnea as a sleep disorder or a CPAP machine used to treat the sleep apnea. It's it's my life. It's my outlook on the fact that I have this sleep disorder. So
Hey,
I
before Jerry closes us, because I know he's getting ready to, I just want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story today, because I know that it can be difficult to talk about it. And I know that, for me, I'm in the business, so I don't mind talking about the fact that I sleep with a CPAP device on every night. But I know some people are, um, sort of closed off and don't want to share their story. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for inviting me. It's taken a lot to get to this point to being open, but at the same time, I wish there was someone open talking about it when I was first diagnosed. So, yeah.
Okay, so we sincerely appreciate that, and being vulnerable and joining us here on our show. We thank you so much for that. Where could people find you? What's the handle once again, so people can find you on TikTok, or if you're on any other platform?
Yeah, you can find me under Mental Health Naps on TikTok. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube as well, all under Mental Health Naps. So you type that in, I should pop up. And also you can find my blog, which is at mentalhealthnaps.com. So everything's under Mental Health Naps.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Asa, and appreciate that. Folks out there, when you're our listeners, viewers, please be sure to check it out. You can have a great story. And if you're a sleep technologist listening to this, think about it. This is a great patient story that you could provide to your patients as well. It allows the patients to, just like she said, that there's some normalcy associated with obstructive sleep apnea, and it helps carry that message forward. With that being said, we want to say thank you all. Casey, thank you so much for joining us. And each and every one of you out there, on behalf of all of us over here at Sleep Tech Talk, we want to say thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget the ratings. Don't forget the comments. Don't forget, please. And until next time, we say thank you and lights on. Okay, what a show. We had a celebrity on the show, and that was awesome. So what'd you gents think?
She delivered. Oh my gosh, what a, it's interesting. And we talked about kind of off camera, the difference in what her TikTok is like and how she was. And she was so serious, but I think that really embodies why she put so much into her show and into communicating with everyone else. Is it's a passion. It's not just entertaining and bringing, sleep apnea to life and connecting with people, but I think she sees herself as an educator and as an advocate, for the voices that need to be heard in that space. And so it was fun to really hear that and hear that testimony, and that we always love to hear from patients and their journey with sleep apnea and how she's mobilized it in such a special way, is just incredible.
We were about this close, by the way, to having our first person shed a tear on our podcast. And if she started crying, you would have seen me. I would have turned into ugly crying over here. I can't have somebody cry in front of me without crying myself. But the older I get, the more sentimental I am. So she almost had me.
Yeah, to keep those tissues close by next time.
That's right. But it was so surprising because it was not what I expected. I expected this, what you see in the videos, not the real emotional and sort of raw. I guess that's where what I would say it was a raw interview with her, where she, was real about her struggle. And it started from her trying to get better from a mental health perspective, not knowing that it was a physical condition that was creating the mental health issues that she was dealing with.
So what you're saying right now, it's echoes what Emerson had said at the pre-cals, which was she took it upon herself to make this journey. She started her blog off and her videos about mental health, and it transformed into the sleep advocacy platform. But she did it as a patient, saying that, hey, I have this disorder. I am going to do something about it. I have a sleep disorder. I'm going to take care of it. And I'm going to also create normalcy around that. And that was, to me, that was probably the most amazing thing. And yeah, to your point, she brought out her total personal story to this, everything that she invested within herself into getting better. That's what she brought to the table with us. And I found that also very endearing, as well as very interesting to listen to.
What's fun is you think about that. How many people have we had on the show now? It seems like almost all of them, who had this entrepreneurial mindset, no matter what it was, whether it's something like this, like, she and Emma, or someone who had a new diagnostic device, is they see this opportunity to step out into the universe and make a difference. And, she embodies that it's just incredible to go from just struggling with the idea of being on CPAP to have 35,000 people want to hear what she has to say now. That's extraordinary. And what a blessing to all of us that we're able to hear that every week that we come on our show. Are these amazing minds who lean into the universe to make a difference, instead of wondering, what they could do, with their lives. They see an opportunity and they seize it and make a difference in the world around them. She just adds to the flavor of what Sleep Tech Talk's all about.
It wouldn't hurt if we could dance too. And, we get more followers. If we could do some TikTok dance.
Our listeners, especially the ones on YouTube, can't unsee that. So
I was just going to say, I think Emerson already answered that for us earlier, saying that nobody wants to see this.
No.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us. And until next time, cheers.